Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwan ni jai, Akshar Purushottam Maharaj ni jai, Gunatitanand Swami Maharaj ni jai, Bhagat Ji Maharaj ni jai, Shastri Ji Maharaj ni jai, Yogi Ji Maharaj ni jai, Pramukh Swami Maharaj ni jai, Mahant Swami Maharaj ni jai, Pramukh Swami Maharaj Shatabdi Mahotsav ni jai, London Mandir Rajat Jayanti Mahotsav ni jai. Today the topic we were talking about was how to become a good satsangi, how to become gold and not to become glass. And in two pads, Muktanand Swami has written a beautiful kirtan. And the reason for writing that kirtan was his sister, Dhanbai. She had come and she wanted to speak to Muktanand Swami. And she wanted to convince Muktanand Swami to come home. But Muktanand Swami was very, inapt in what he was doing in his life. He wanted to become a sadhu. He was a sadhu. And he was a great sadhu in our sanstha. And Muktanand Swami was said to be the mother of satsang. He was a very learned sadhu. And he was also envied by all the other sadhus. He was respected by all the other sadhus. And Maharaj loved Muktanand Swami. He was 22 years older, Muktanand Swami. But Maharaj had a love for Muktanand Swami. So this had come to Muktanand Swami, that his sister was there and his sister wanted to talk to him and wanted to convince him to come back home. And this went to then Bhagwan Swaminarayan. And Shriji Maharaj, he said to Muktanand Swami, this can't happen, but we can do something like this. So in one room, Muktanand Swami was sitting with Bhagwan Swaminarayan. And in the other room was his sister. And Muktanand Swami there wrote this kirtan, sang this kirtan, composed this kirtan, Sambara Beni Hari Rijani Ritri. And in the kirtan, Muktanand Swami explains how we should be as a person, how we should serve Bhagwan, how we should take out other tendencies and swabhavs out of our life and serve Bhagwan and become basically gold in our life. So today we're going to be listening to the second pad of that kirtan that Muktanand Swami had composed. Sambhar beni Hari Rijani Ritadi Sambhar beni Hari Rijani Ritadi Mohan varne maan sangate ver jo Sadhan sarve मान बगाड़े पड़ विषे साधन सर्वे मान बगाड़े पड़ विषे जेम भरियु पैसा कर्मा अहि जेर जो. In these two lines, Muktanand Swami is saying to his sister, always look at Bhagwan. Never look at some individual who is egoistic. Bhagwan ne maan gamtu nathi. He has a displacement for a person who has maan. Muktanand Swami is saying that to his sister. He's also saying in the second line, just like we have milk, and in milk we mix sugar in there. But in that milk, that sugary milk, if we put one drop of poison in there, that person will die. So Muktanand Swami is also saying in our spiritual endeavor, if we come into contact with people who are egoistic, we will fall from our spiritual path. This is how strongly Bhagwan Swaminarayan feels about a person with ego. Yeah. All of our swabhavas, if we look at them, they are derived from ego. And this ego is come from different areas in our lives. It could be talents that we have, it could be intelligence, or it could be the education. Yeah. So in Gujarati it said ke avdat nu man, yeah, buddhi nu gnan, એટલે intelligence, yeah, and a bhantar nu gnan, એટલે the education that you have. Sometimes a person is very talented, and because of his talents, he shows these egotistical tendencies in his life. Because he may have done something that people adored, that people liked. So automatically he becomes egotistical. Intelligence. There are very intelligent people in this world. And when you sometimes look at those intelligent people, sometimes they think to themselves, ke mara jevu to koi kari sake nahi. Because he has that intelligence, but because of that intelligence, he also has those egotistical tendencies in his life. And bhantar, education. You may be a very, very great scholar with a lot of degrees in your life. That can also bring ego into your life. Now, every person in the world, he is craving, or she is craving, every human is craving to be appreciated in their life, yeah, accepted, appreciated in their life. Yeah. But because of this ego that's engulfing us in our life, when you try to become good, sometimes that ego, it creeps in. And that egotistical person, yeah, when you look at him or her, yeah, they're conceited, self-centered people. Yeah. You have to be very, very careful in identifying these egotistical people, or this man that is in our life. Because that will engulf us, and we will go away from the path of Bhagwan. Yeah? And this happens many times. But we have to know that characteristic of that person with those tendencies of ego in him. He's a very conceited person, self-centered person, hypocritical person. Yeah? Ene ena jivan ni andar lage ke hu bolu. Yeah? I can say anything that I want, but I don't have to do that. Yeah? That's a hypocritical person, very self-centered in the way that he thinks, the way that he talks. Yeah. Lives in a fantasy world. This is how deep that ego goes into that person. He's living in a fantasy world. He thinks everything is right around him. Yeah. He thinks that he is right. Yeah. But he hurts people physically, mentally, and verbally. Yeah. Many times we don't know. But these people that are around us, jene man che, એ આપણી આજુબાજુ હોય, so sometimes physically they're hurting us. Sometimes mentally, a mental strain that person puts on you. Yeah, mentally that person is hurting you. And verbally, the words that he speaks. Yeah. Sometimes their words come out better than other people's words. So verbally they are hurting you. That person with man has no respect for anyone else. Yeah. Any other human being in life, they have no respect for them. Because એમના જીવનની અંદર એ લોકોને શું લાગે છે કે હું જ સાચો છું, કે હું જે કરું છું, હું જે બોલું છું, એ બધી વસ્તુ સાચી છે. He has no shame. Has no shame in what he is saying, what he is doing. કોઈ પણ ક્રિયા કરતો હોય, he has absolutely no shame in that. He upsets very quickly. Now this is very important. You can understand a person. Now I'm saying some of these things so you might realize some of these people in the world. Yeah. He gets angry very fast. That person in the room, he may get angry very, very fast because his point is not put across. Yeah. He speaks the loudest in the room. When that person comes into the room while a conversation is going on, if he's not being heard, he speaks up louder than everybody else. And because he speaks up louder, everybody else listens. It's not true that they should be listening, but people listen. Because going back to what we were talking about, ke kachnu vasan. Yeah. These people are kachnu vasan kehvaya. Anybody with this egotistical tendencies in their life, yeah, that are engulfed in their life, they're kachnu vasan. Yeah. એ લોકોને થોડું કામ અડો ને તો એ કાચને crack પડી જાય છે. Yeah. Even if you flick him just a little bit, you just flick, in that glass, it automatically breaks. Yeah, he takes over a conversation. Yeah, that person takes over a conversation. When he enters a room, it's not like people don't know. People do know. People exactly know how this person is. But because a kachnu vasan che na, people don't hurry. People don't, put a pin in that person all the time. So when he enters a room, it's like a dark cloud entering the room. Now all of you, some of you may be, watching, you may have read the Harry Potter books. And in the Harry Potter books, there is a character in there, which are called the Dementors. Yeah? They suck the life out of everything that they see. They suck the happiness out of everything that they see. They're called the Dementors. Yeah? And these Dementors, when they come into any sort of predicament with anybody or with happiness, they suck that out. So aaj ye manas che je room ni andar aave, and he comes into that room which is very vibrant, and people are talking about good things. But when this person comes into the room, there's a dark cloud. And he sucks the life out of everybody else in that room, and he puts himself forward. Because of this ego that he has. And all of those people there, they have to listen to this person. They have to keep constantly listening to this person because they don't want to crack him. They don't want to get into any association with that person. So they're all holding umbrellas over their heads. Yeah? They feel uncomfortable around that person. In Loya 16, in Vachnamrut Loya 16, Bhagvan Swaminarayan એવી રીતે કહ્યું કે જેને માન હોય તેનો સંતનો પણ અભાવ આવે છે. So Maharaj saying this in the Vachnamrut, કે whoever has ego, he has abhav of the sant. Yeah? We don't realize how, hard this thing is, this ego that a person has in his life, how much it's engulfed into his life, that in the beginning in satsang, we'll just talk about satsang, but in satsang, he has this tendency. So he'll start having those tendencies with Hari Bhaktas. Then he'll start having abhav of the santos. Then he'll start having abhav of Sadguru Santos. Then he'll start having abhav of the Sadpurush. And then ultimately he has the abhav of Bhagwan. Because everything that he does is right. Everything that he is saying is right. In Vartal 12, Maharaj said, Man che te krodh, matsar, irsha ne dro. Teno adhar che. Like I said in the beginning, the thing that engulfs all of our swabhavs is man. Man is the most worst thing to have in your life. And that's what brings all of these other tendencies in. This anger, greed, lust. All of these things are brought in because a person who has man, and Muktanand Swami is trying to explain to us that this individual with man, stay away from him. Yeah? The person with ego, stay away from that person. He is poison. He's telling his sister that. Only go towards Bhagwan. And Bhagwan je vastu ke, e vastu apde karvani. There was a Hari Bhakta once. His name was Harka Patel. Yeah? And one person must have told him, look, wash your feet and then come inside the mandir. Ema ene khotu lagi gyu. Ema ene khotu lagi gyu just by someone saying something to him in this way. Why is that person telling me? And why is he not telling anybody else? Ene khotu lagi gyu. He felt bad. So he never came back to the mandir again. So the words and how we say those words. Draupadi said to Duryodhan, a blind son of a blind father. She said these words, and it was a start of a war. It was a start of a war because she could not use her words in a proper way. Sundarji Suthar in Maharaj's time, he was a sevak. Whatever Maharaj told him to do, he did. And Maharaj told him to become a sadhu. And that Sundarji Suthari became a sadhu without saying one single word. And then Maharaj and the Hari Bhaktas and the Santos, they were sitting there and they said, look, Maharaj, you made this guy a sadhu, but he's the Kach Raja's right-hand man. If the Kach Raja finds out, he will not let us back into Kach again. So Maharaj goes, એવું છે? તો પછી એને પાછા બોલાવો. Bring him back. They brought him back. And then Maharaj goes, ke ave tamare sadhu nahi rehvanu, ave tame grihastha thai jao. Take off your sadhu clothes and put back on your normal clothes. This is what Maharaj told him. Yet Sundarji Suthar did not say one single word. But in a sabha, Sundarji Suthar, he got straight up. Yeah. He got straight up in the sabha and he goes, Maharaj, tame mane avu karyu che. You did this to me. Yeah, he's pointing to himself. You did this to me. But make sure you don't do this to anybody else, because I don't think anybody else can take it. Only I can take it in satsang. Maharaj had to show this Haribhakta, Sundarji Suthar, that he is not the only one in satsang who will give up everything to become a sadhu or to follow Shriji Maharaj's agna. Yeah. So Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he wrote a letter to 18 different Haribhaktas and said, Tatkalik tame je karta, anything that you're doing, put it away right now. And come to Ramdas Swami, take Diksha, and then come and meet me. And at that time, all of these 18 Haribhaktas, they had come to meet Bhagwan Swaminarayan. In Sundarji Suthar, he was there witnessing, ke look, I am not the only one. A man tadwa mate, Bhagwan Swaminarayan had to do all of these things. But a person with ego, Bhagwan Swaminarayan, he displeases that person. He hates that person. In this bhajan, Muktanand Swami goes, Bhagwan. Yeah? He displeases that kind of person. In the second lines of this bhajan, Muktanand Swami says, Dasi thai reh je tu deen dayadni. दासी थई रह जे तू दीन दयाड़नी नीची तेल मड़े तो माने भाग्य जो भव ब्रह्मादिक ने निश्चल मलती नहीं भव ब्रह्मादिक ने निश्चल मलती नथी पुरुषोत्तम पासे बैठा निजाग्य जो. Beautifully written by Muktanand Swami, that he said we should be the servant of Bhagwan. Don't worry about anything else. But do the most menial service that we can do for Bhagwan. We must do that service for Bhagwan. We must become das. Yeah. Even Brahma, yeah, deities like Brahma, they are not even close to Purushottam Bhagwan. They don't have the fortune sometimes of going close to Purushottam Bhagwan. We have that fortune, yeah, that we are close to Bhagwan in that way and is Sadpurush. So, ena das thayne apne seva karvi. Yeah, this is the most important thing in our life, to serve Bhagwan. Okay, serve, who do we have? Yeah, serve him with all of our ability, all of our strength. There was once a king, and a servant came to meet that king. And the king asked him a couple of questions. The king said, okay, what's your name? So the servant said, okay, whatever you want to name me is my name. Okay, what kind of clothes do you like? The king asked the servant. Okay, whatever clothes you give me, I will like. The king asks again, okay, what kind of food do you like? Whatever you give me, I will like. Then the king goes, okay, what can you do? Yeah, what work can you do? I can do any work that you give me, king. It doesn't matter what you give me. Yeah. What is your wish? The king said to the servant, okay, what is your wish? The servant goes, the servant never has any wishes to my king. Yeah. My only wish is to serve you and nothing else but you. Yeah. At that time, the king, he stood up from his throne and he put the servant on the throne. Now, kyun kehvai? Yeah. Because that servant was only dedicated to that king. And not that he answered all the questions correctly, but he was dedicated. He was the das. He was a servant of that king. So whenever that king said, whatever that king said, that servant would do. And that's what we have to do. That's how we have to become in our life, to become a little bit more gold in our life. The gold in our life. that das, that tendency to become das in our life, that's what we have to become. In 2009, Pramukh Swami Maharaj no ek prasang che. So Pramukh Swami Maharaj was going into a meeting with the santos. And while Pramukh Swami Maharaj was going and he was walking towards that meeting, the santos had said, Swami, can you wait a little bit longer in another room? We're still talking about something else. Yeah. So at that time, Pramukh Swami Maharaj, he didn't say a word. Yeah, he went into another room, he sat there for a little while. Then the santos, they came and picked up Swami. Yeah. And they said, Swami, ava tame aayi sako cho room ni andar. And then the santos, they said, Ke Swami, we didn't call you in the room because chansad ni vaat thati thi. Swami's village, any vaat ni kahin jamin ni vaat thati ase. So that's why we didn't call you. But the santos said, Tame to padna pad cho. Tamne to kai vandho na ave. You wouldn't have any problem with this vaat anyways. Yeah. But Swami, that time he did an action. He took his finger and all the way from the top to all the way to the bottom of his feet, Swami did the action. And Swami said, I am the sand below the feet of the santos. This is Pramukh Swami Maharaj saying this. I am the sand beneath the feet of the santos. Hu nanama nano chu. You can tell me anything that you want, any time that you want. It doesn't matter to me. Das che apne. Apne sevak che. Apne jem ke em apne kari levu. During Swami's bypass, we all know the prasang. But when you visualize this prasang, when Pramukh Swami Maharaj, when the doctors, they said, Ke Swami's bypass has to happen right away. Right this second, it has to happen. It's like a volcano about to erupt. This is what the doctors were saying. Swami yet, in his mind, nothing. Yeah, no phase, no nothing. When Swami was walking into the hospital, and we've all seen this video many, many times, Swami was walking into the hospital. Now when you visualize this prasang and you see Ke Pramukh Swami Maharaj in the middle, and on one side holding his hand is Krishna Vallabh Swami, the other side holding his hand is Yogi Charan Swami. But Swami can see everything that is going on around him. But behind him was the Sevak Sant. And Swami saw that hospital ni andar jau chu. Now this is total anusandhan, this is das bhakti towards your Bhagwan, never forgetting Bhagwan. Swami stopped. Yeah, Swami stopped. And he let the Thakurji je Sant jalta tha, Tyag Swarup Swami. He told him to go forward. And pachi Bhagwan pehla andar gya. Pachi Pramukh Swami Maharaj andar gya. Now he's having a bypass surgery. Another person would run into the hospital because the doctor just said it's like a volcano about to erupt. But Pramukh Swami Maharaj shanti thi, thande kare. He only remembers his Bhagwan. Even in that same prasang, Thakurji, just to Sachawa Thakurji's timings, Pramukh Swami Maharaj's operation was in the morning time, afternoon time. Pramukh Swami Maharaj wanted to change that time. He said, time apne badaliye. Yeah. No one knew why they wanted to change this time, why he wanted to change this time. Yeah. But Pramukh Swami Maharaj go, time apne badaliye. Then afterwards, they started the actual operation after 3 o'clock, after 4 o'clock. The operation had happened. And then Pramukh Swami Maharaj ne kahu ke kem aa time hai? Ke Thakurji no time sachwai jai ne, Thakurji na aram male, Thakurji na fruit khawano time male. So itla apne aa time e karyu. Now who would think about something like that in that time during a bypass that is going on in his life? Bhagwan Swaminarayan said in a Sant Sabha that he was having in Gadada, he said, Das na das thaine nitya satsang kare che ne, તેની જ ભક્તિ હું સ્વીકારું છું. તેની જ ભક્તિ, only his ભક્તિ, કે નિત્ય સત્સંગ કરીને દાસ થઈને એ સેવા કરે તો એની જ, only his ભક્તિ I સ્વીકાર. It's an honor to do that Bhagwan seva. એ ભગવાનની સેવા કરવી, it's an honor to do that seva. In the last lines, Muktanand Swami says, प्रीत करे पुरुषोत्तम साथे नित्य नवीन. प्रीत करे पुरुषोत्तम साथे नित्य नवीन. दाजिश मां देखी केनु सन्मान जो. मुक्तानंदना નાથ મગન થઈ સેવજો મુક્તાનંદના નાથ મગન થઈ સેવજો તોરી જે રસિયો સુંદર વર કાનજો. He's telling his sister at that time કે આ પુરુષોત્તમ ભગવાન છે ને એ આપણને મળ્યા છે ને, there is no one ultimate than him. Yeah. Serve that Purushottam Bhagwan. If you serve that Purushottam Bhagwan, yeah, it's a surefire way to earn his grace in satsang. Yeah. તો આમાં જે વાત આવી પ્રાપ્તિની વાત આવી છે કે આપણને કોણ મળ્યા છે. Sometimes we don't realize, many times we think કે આપણને મળ્યા છે, આ સદપુરુષ મળ્યા છે, આ ભગવાન મળ્યા છે, but we take it for granted many times. But we are so very, very lucky in our lifetime that we have satsang, we have this human form, and we also have the sadpurush. Some people in the world, they have the human form, but they lack that satsang and the sadpurush. Yeah. Well, we are so lucky in our lives to have all three of these things. And the greatness of it, we must understand through these kathas, through these kirtans. Sant Swami once said, and it was a prasang in Sarangpur in 1992 after Sant Swami's heart attack. Pramukh Swami Maharaj had come into his room, and Pramukh Swami Maharaj sat next to Sant Swami, and Sant Swami held his hand. And Sant Swami told all the other santos that were sitting there and the Haribhaktas that were sitting there, they come close, mare ek vaat karvi chhe. I want to tell you something. And Sant Swami said કે શ્રીજી મહારાજ અને ગુણાતીતાનંદ સ્વામીના 200 વર્ષની જયંતિ આપણે ઉજવી. Yeah, the 200 years of Sriji Maharaj and Gurunath Swami, we celebrated those utsavs. Yeah. Sastri Maharaj's 100 years, we also celebrated. Yogiji Maharaj's 100 years, we also celebrated. And we'll be doing these jayantis all the time, but they will not come down to speak to you. But understand, all of these people, all of these gurus, they are in Pramukh Swami Maharaj. Aa guru ni andar che. So live by what he says. એ જે કે એમ આપણે કરવાનું છે. એ તમને એકાંતિક બનાવશે. He will make you એકાંતિક. We are so lucky, Sant Swami says, that we are so lucky to have this satsang, this manushya deh, and this sadpurush. So make sure you do satsang and become ekantik. Pramukh Swami Maharaj is the root of that. So never ever forget him. Never, not hold his hand. Always grasp his hand. Never let go of his hand. Sant Swami said this prasang in 1992. In 1980, in Friends Hall, Atmaswarup Swami had done a pravachan on Pandre Pandre Satsang apne karvo. So in Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Ashirwad, Pramukh Swami Maharaj said ke આ દરેક રૂવાડાની અંદર ભજન થાય છે. Yeah, every single hair on my body, એની અંદર ભજન થાય છે. એ આપણને પ્રાપ્ત થયું છે. પ્રમુખ સ્વામી મહારાજ is saying કે એ આપણને પ્રાપ્ત થયું છે. We have got that. We have attained that. And if you stay close, you can also attain that bhajan in your life. In Dallas in 1994, one sant he sang a kirtan, ekavare 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 yogi mare mandire aavo re. He sang this kirtan. In Pramukh Swami Maharaj's Ashirwad, Pramukh Swami Maharaj said, કે હું તો તમારે ઘરે આવ્યો છું. I have come to your house, but you're all busy. હું છેક અક્ષરધામથી આવ્યો છું, પણ તમે બધા બહુ બિઝી છો. જો પ્રમુખ સ્વામી મહારાજ કેવી રીતે બોલે છે કે we are busy. He's here for us. He's here 24/7 for us. But are we there for him? આપણને આટલું બધું મળ્યું છે આપણા સત્સંગની અંદર, આપણા જીવનની અંદર. So now we just have to do that. We just have to attain. We just have to do what they tell us to do. દરેક સત્પુરુષની આજ્ઞા, ભગવાનની આજ્ઞા આપણે પાડીશું તો it brings us closer and closer to becoming like gold. And that's what we have to endeavor in our lives. Get that flame when we're in Akshardham. That flame is a golden flame, and it's always burning, and it's always doing that darshan of Bhagwan Swaminarayan. But in this life, we have to get, away from these egotistical tendencies that we may have in our lives, or individuals that we may know in our lives who have these tendencies, these swabhavs. We need to eradicate those from our life. Also, we have to become das, be his servant. Yeah. And સાથે we have to understand that આપણને જે પ્રાપ્ત થયું છે, the thing that we have attained in our life, this Bhagwan that we have attained, the Sadpurush that we have attained, we can do everything for them as much as we can with our power that we can do for this Sadpurush. એટલું તો આપણે ઓછું જ છે, પણ જેટલું કરીશું, it will bring us more and more closer to becoming gold, and it will, give us full conviction. No one can ever break our spirit, or our conviction in our life if we have this tendencies toward Bhagwan, this prapti, this das bhav towards Bhagwan. Then no one can ever break us towards that, and we can become gold in our lives. Shri Swaminarayan Bhagwan Ni Jai.